Boom. Hey, by the way, Colton, you can hear me okay?
Yeah, man, we're good.
All right. So guys, just so you know, if you don't know, Colton Mewbourne just hit the Hall of Fame. So Colton just hit the Hall of Fame, over $1 million in Cutco sales, okay? In personal Cutco sales. Last year, to hit the Hall of Fame, he did $300,000 in Cutco sales for the year. Already this year, he's at $25,000 sold this year, okay? So he is, Colton, what's your goal this year anyway?
More than I did last year.
So over 300 grand is what he's looking to do this year. He's doing absolutely exceptional. What was your SC2 push? What was it, like 40 grand, 50 grand for SC2?
64.
64,000 is what he sold for his push for the July push. $64,000 in 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. So that's why I invited Colton to talk to us tonight on sharing some of his thoughts on how to step up, how to level up during a push, what it means to push, what a push is all about. This is pen and paper. Pen and paper, take notes, ready to roll. And on a personal note, if you guys didn't know, Colton has run his own, he was in management. Colton branched before, right? Were you branched in Panama City?
Did not branch.
Oh, Dom in a branch. So he was a Dom in a branch. He went to management route and then realized Cutco sales route was a little bit the better route for him. He's a graduate from University of West Florida, right? University of West Florida, out in the Panhandle, and he's been in the Cutco business for about a decade. So you're about to learn a ton from a really good friend of mine, Colton. On a personal note, just traveled. He traveled, took his Cutco money 2 summers ago and just went on an excursion. Went to Peru, had a flower bath in Peru, went all around different countries and just explored and backpacked. How long was that trip for?
2.5 months.
2.5 months. So he just sold a shit ton of knives, made all this money, and then just backpacked for 2.5 months and visited how many different countries?
13.
13 countries. So pretty awesome stuff. Colton, it's all yours, man. Thank you so much, by the way. I know my team appreciates it. I know I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to talk to us. So thank you so much. Let's give Colton a little bit of round of applause. Thank you. It's all you, man.
Cool, man. So can you guys hear me all right? Am I cutting out? Any of that good stuff?
You're good.
Sweet. So yeah, so I appreciate you guys having me on. And, the fun part about getting to share the love with you guys is that at some point in my journey, someone was willing to give back to me too. So I'm always down to hop on these calls. I'm always down to give what I can, right? That's one of the fun parts is I think that when I have an introduction as powerful as Mike just gave it, it's really cool that, I can sit where I'm sitting at in life now. And the best part about it is being able to say with 100% confidence that you guys are literally sitting in the exact same seats that I was just a few years ago. So you definitely have everything at your fingertips, right? So let's get into it. Let's mix it up. So one of the things I love, I'm going to share with you guys just a couple points. My goal is to share with you guys very tactfully and then stick to kind of some nuts and bolts, if you will, right? A little bit of mindset, but my objective is really to help you maybe put your mind in the right place for a push coming up, or, any kind of pushes that you guys have going on, and then some ways to execute in the push that I've found that have worked best for me. One of the things that I think, just to set the stage, that's funny about when you're in a push, it's like all holds bar, like just totally balls to the wall, crazy, for lack of a better term, sorry, right? But the fun part about it is, like, a push to me is kind of like a microcosm for your life. One of the things that we get so distracted by in life is like, oh, I have my girlfriend or boyfriend to pay attention to, like that new Netflix show. I have school going on. My parents are down my throat. A push allows you to prep the people around you that, hey, I'm about to go into this thing for me, and it's going to help me become a better version of me. And the people around you that care about you most, they'll understand that if you prep them If you have the conversation with someone, it doesn't have to be intense. Just tell them, hey, like I have this thing coming up. I'm going to go on, a lot of people call it like a money-making vacation. My friends, check this out. My girlfriend, my assistant today, by the way, this is hot. So to paint you guys a picture, during my push for July, we drove, my assistant and I hired a driver. We drove 7,400 miles in 17 days. That's 13 cities in 17 days that we drove through, 13 separate cities in 17 days, 62 appointments. We had 3 no sales, 59 sales, and then, you know, the rest was made up on the phone and stuff. But he got fired up today. This dude thought he was going on deployment. He's not going on deployment anymore. Now he's floating the idea by me of us buying an RV. I mean, it's me buying an RV. But we're going to buy a camper potentially for SC2 this summer. And just like, I don't know what that looks like. It sounds weird even saying it. But I don't know. It's cool. So it's like, you know, it doesn't have to be this intense thing, right? Like, I could bring my cat. Everybody knows I love my cat. If you know me, if you don't know me, this is a good opportunity for you to know. My cat Jelly Bean could potentially be a big part of my push. It was a big part of this past year. So anyway, so you prep the people around you. This is if you're taking any kind of thing away from this, there's actually like, I'm weaving in the first big tip is that you enroll the people around you into your goal. So often we forget that achieving something comes with building momentum. You have a weight loss goal. Well, what does building momentum for a weight loss goal look like? It probably looks like going to the gym multiple days in a row. It probably looks like deciding to not have Chick-fil-A healthy and have real healthy. It's what I call 1 degree decisions. And if you looked at your family and your peers, your friends, the people that you care about the most, and understand the energy you give to them, they'll give right back to you. So if you prep them, hey, I'm about to go into this big thing. Do you think, by the way, I don't want to lose you guys here. Do you think that by telling the people around you, hey, I'm about to do this thing, will you support me? Do you think that's going to help you? Yes or yes?
Yeah.
Probably, right? It sounds like super simple, but when people are gunning for you and saying like, man, Colton, I really hope you get that goal. Something about that really fires you up. Something about having accountability to that thing you said. Now you have eyes on you. Now your homie's not hitting you up to come over and hang out because they understand like, wait, if you come hang out, they give you this look like, aren't you supposed to be doing something you said you wanted to do? And if they're a real friend, if they're a real girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, they'll just kind of remind you of that. So that'd be the first thing. The second thing is to prep yourself. This is mentally making sure that you're ready to go. In the same way that if you're going to go on a long road trip, you're going to get your oil changed, you're going to get your tires rotated, you know, so do what you got to do when it comes to school. You're given a syllabi at the beginning of the semester. You know what's coming down the pike. Just plan for it. Reach out to your professor. By the way, I used to do this with all my professors. I would sit down and say, hey, I have this thing coming up. It's really important to me. How can we make this like easier on me? And they'll literally lay out, because you got to understand, out of all the students they have, there's maybe 1% of students that are coming up that are going to like come out, show up to the professor and say like, hey, I need help with this right now. And so, by the way, like this is if you're in the middle of push, this is a push coming up. Like it doesn't matter if you have something going on and you feel like it's going to distract you later, like have that conversation right now. So getting your mind right. So another part about getting your life together, a microcosm is a push is a microcosm of your life, right? So it gives you an opportunity to look at everything under a microscope. So if at some point, you know, Mike told me that you guys are in the middle of a push right now. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And you guys have what, 5 days left?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Do we have anybody that's hit their goal yet?
No.
All right, cool. Sweet. So you're exactly where you need to be. So check it out. At some point, if you realize like a push, and what I mean like is a microcosm of your life, it gives you an opportunity to understand, like, where are my stress points? So if I feel stressed, well, let's take an opportunity to relabel emotions. Am I stressed, or am I really just not feeling prepared? Am I angry, or am I really just fearful that I didn't get what I wanted? Am I sad, or am I just upset that an expectation I had wasn't met? So when I talk about getting your mind right and this push being a microcosm of your life, think taking what's scaled up as your life, scaling it down, putting it under a microscope and going, where am I weak? Where am I not where I thought I was or want to be? How are my relationships doing? How's my faith, my nutrition? How's my skill set? I'm closing. How am I doing at getting recommendations? If I wasn't connecting dots before, maybe that helps connect some dots now. And you take a very non-emotional view at these different areas, these different quadrants, if you will, right? If you had a circle, if you had a wheel and you looked at these different areas of your life and the push stresses some of these areas, rather than being upset, rather than getting down on yourself or feeling like, hey, I'm not good enough, or I didn't hit my goal yet, or I'm behind pace on my goal, well, why don't we just identify what needs to be altered, what needs to be shifted, and understand that a goal isn't necessarily always meant to be hit. For every push that I've sold X amount, there's so many other pushes that I didn't accomplish what I set out to accomplish. The overarching goal is to push yourself. And so what that means, it's like a catapult in the direction, the trajectory that you want to go. If you're in this push and everything feels easy, well, congratulations, you're a rock star. If you're on pace and you're going to hit your goal tomorrow, sweet. I would probably challenge you that you didn't think big enough in the first place. And now you have an opportunity to understand, oh, wow, like I'm better than I thought I was. If you're a little bit behind your goal and you're still kind of on pace, but you have all this anxiety and doubt on the inside, and you're like, well, Mike tells me a lot of these stories about stuff that I just don't see that shit happening. Well, congratulations. You're like in the 90%. That's how pushes go. And if you're way behind your goal and you're like, dude, I'm a loser, like there's no way I can do it, I would challenge every single one of those types of people, right? If you found yourself sitting in one of those three buckets, that it should be hard. The purpose of a push is to push you. At no point should it honestly feel easy, because then why would we call it a push? Here's the deal. Raise your hand if you're in the room and you've done, like you've been in the gym and you've done what's called a fail set. Like you do a bunch of reps and you go until you fail. Raise your hand if you've done one of those before. Anybody? Okay, so about half the room. Okay, so these are very important workouts because it teaches you where your muscle mass actually is. And everyone's heard the expression, right? Raise your hand if you've heard the expression, the muscle only grows on the last rep. Have you heard that? Raise your hand. I'm trying to get some involvement here, and you guys are just like, give me the nuggets. You know, I want to take notes. I don't want to hear any of this crowd participation stuff. So check it out. The reason why I bring that up is because if you did a fail set and then you gave up and you still had like 2 reps in you, do you grow? No. But there's no coach that's going to stand next to you that can get in your head and honestly understand if that's your actual limit. So understand the difference between where Mike is at right now, him being the trainer next to you, and saying, hey man, I'm giving you all the tools. I'm telling you exactly what to do. All you have to determine is whether or not you're willing to dump that extra little bit of gas in the tank and go for it. To be willing to look silly, to be willing to lay down your ego for a second and actually try. Because the cool kids, man, I can't wait until my high school reunion. All the cool, popular kids that, by the way, I hung out with, I was one of them. Most of them are fat, divorced. Like, I don't know that working at Home Depot was on the docket for the 10-year plan. And not throwing shade at that, right? But I'm just saying, that's what being cool gets you. That's what the status quo looks like. So the moment you wake up and realize, like, man, am I who I want to be right now? If the answer is yes, then keep going doing what you're doing. If the answer is anything but yes, something has to change. This push gives you an opportunity in the last 5 days to tap into your inner champion. The definition of a champion: support the cause of, to defend. Defend your right to create a life that you didn't think was possible for yourself. As a kid that came out of Panama City, only wanted to go to college, only one out of my brothers that didn't go to jail or prison. Between my mom and dad, I saw 6 divorces. There's a lot of reasons I could give to you right now that I feel that you could relate to me. But the number one thing that I want you to take away from this whole call right now is just to believe. Believe that you're worth failing for. If you don't have the belief to fail for yourself, you'll never get the belief to achieve for yourself. Higher than that, to achieve for others. At some point, you'll into this, like, you'll butt up against this skin, this, like, I feel like my life should be more than this. If you're frustrated with where you're at currently, know that there's some sort of information, there's something that you're not doing that you need in order to move forward. And be hungry for that. It's all about the quality of the questions that we ask ourselves, right? So when you think about when you're inside of a push, so by the way, to back it off, right? Okay, all this is great, but now what? How does this help me get results in a push, Colton? Well, maybe if you try, that'll be the first step, right? Try really hard. If you're trying really hard and you're not getting the results that you want, the second thing I would be asking myself, and by the way, when I was in pushes, I had Post-it notes all over my car. I had a Post-it note on my rear view mirror. What would a champion do? I had my goal slapped up on my dashboard. I had a sheet of paper that I had written out all the likely scenarios that I would encounter. A lady didn't want to give me 5 recs. What would a champion do? What would a champion do? And I wrote down under all these different scenarios, what would a champion do? And when I felt like I wasn't being a champion, I read that piece of paper. I'm like, well, a champion would do that. What would a champion do if I got to my appointment 10 minutes early? What would a champion do? And I wrote out the answer. So I'd get to my appointment early, and I'd be like, well, shit, I guess a champion would make 5 calls. And I did that. So even if you don't believe that you can achieve your goal yet, you're behind pace, you're on pace, whatever, what would a champion do? Challenge yourself to step into that. So when you're thinking about, well, I need to sell more than I've ever sold in the next 5 days, or I need to continue selling what I've sold the next 5 days. The number one tip I could share with you on how to make sure that you stay consistent or to elevate your results is to be emotionless about results. See, most people get fired up if they're not getting the results they want. They get fired up or they get depressed. They do this mood swing, right? They go through this wave of emotion. See, people get it twisted. Don't get emotional about your results. Don't get sad. Don't get angry that you didn't make a sale. Get angry that you didn't get in front of a better prospect. Don't get upset that someone canceled on you. Get upset that you didn't double book that appointment, that you didn't window schedule. Like, the moment that you take responsibility for everything in your life is the moment you can change anything in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Stop trying to put responsibility off on the world and take responsibility for yourself.
Preach, Colton.
So when you're looking about being consistent, if you're not getting the results that you want to get, don't get emotional about the results. Get emotional about the action. What's the action that you could take to influence the results the world's giving you? Because believe me, if you have white space in your calendar, if you have white space in your head, the world will find a way to fill it. Your environment will find a way to fill the gaps. So what I mean by that is that if you're not taking responsibility for everything, excuses will find a way to creep in.
Mm-hmm.
You get hit at a red light and you're like, dude, I knew this was the next appointment. Now my car's got to get towed. I can't believe that person wrecked this whole thing. I can't believe, if you're in that mindset, that victim mindset, you might not even see the opportunity just to get your sample kit out of the car, call an Uber, and it'd be a $15 Uber to get to that appointment. And then you sell a homemaker. Was that $15 Uber worth it? I'll give you an example. I woke up one day. This is my first SC2. I was going for my first 10K push. I woke up and my car was missing. A man had gotten high on meth, stolen my car, and they found it in a cornfield.
What?
What do you do?
You can't make that up. You can't make that up.
I mean, I could, but I'm definitely not. I promise you, I'm definitely not. You find a way, right? You borrow your manager's car. I borrowed my manager's car. Manager's car got a flat tire. Same day, by the way. Called AAA, get the car towed, find out they found my car in the cornfield, got back in my car, completed the day. Whatever I sold, I sold. The reason I'm sharing this with you is because it's very easy for me to give you some of these, what I would call mentality tips, right? Some people view it as hippie woo-woo rah-rah. This inspirational stuff. I haven't been through it. The reason I'm sharing it with you is because adversity is gonna happen. Earmark it on the calendar. It's gonna come. But if we expect it to come, are we thrown off when it happens? Not as much. So I'd rather be proactive than reactive. You guys get that? You follow that? When you're proactive, you have an opportunity to influence. When you're reactive, you're being influenced. So expect the adversity, expect the unknown, and adjust. So to recap that right there, don't get emotional about the results. Get emotional about the action. Get fired up to get on the phone. Get fired up to book more appointments. Don't be all bummed out because you don't have enough. Your brain is a problem solving and a problem creating machine. If you take it out of the problem creating, put it on solving problems, your brain's not going to think of more problems. Like it's as it's thinking with solutions. It's one or the other. I'm sure Mike has taught you guys about gratitude. And that when the mind is thinking in gratitude state, it can't think about other things. It's suspended in one state. I'm thinking of gratitude. The same thing happens with solutions. 5 days to go in your push. Think of solutions. Ask yourself off the wall questions if that means that you're going to potentially find an answer versus being stuck in a rut of, I don't know, I'm going to sit here, Mr. and Miss Pissy Pants, and hope the world gets better for me. I forgot this call was being recorded. So anyway, sorry. So you get the idea, right? You get the idea. Take charge. Be the captain of your life. Don't be on the sidelines. Be in the arena. It's much more enjoyable. So some of the last things I had for you guys were, some of the nuts and bolts that I promised.
Cole, and by the way, I just want to echo what you just said, and I appreciate this, by the way. When Colton's talking about be emotionless, I think oftentimes, especially because myself or many of the coaches, we're constantly managing results, we're managing outcomes, we're managing numbers, that we get emotionally attached to the numbers, but the numbers are just feedback. And to get feedback is really a positive thing. It's how we respond to feedback is what Colton's saying here. It's like, I love the questions he's asking. It's like, if I feel stressed about the feedback, it's, well, like, what's causing that? It's like, I wasn't really prepared. So therefore that's feedback, which is really good. My coach always tells me, he's like, Mike, you're doing great and you have a lot of work to do. That's great feedback for me to say, hey, I got to constantly improve. I got to constantly get better because there's a lot of people around me, which is awesome. Colton, because I respect your time, man. And I know we're in the middle of our phone jam for the push. If you had to give maybe a 30 to 60 second plug, I have these people hearing you, 59 sales on 62 appointments, to have that level of closing percentage. If you had to say a mentality and also a skill, if there was a mentality and a skill, maybe 30 seconds on each, that they could adopt going into their next wave of demos, whether that's 5 or 10 or 12 demos these last 5 days, what would be a mentality you adopt to have almost 100% buy from them, and maybe a skill set they could adopt to have almost 100% buy from them, and you had almost $1,000 average order. So maybe a mentality and skill on how to have a $1,000 plus average order on those appointments. Maybe 30 seconds, 60 seconds, just because I know you're in the middle of stuff and I know they're in the middle of their jam, but I'm sure they would be very interested on your answer to that.
Sure. So there's a couple things coming to mind. One is being pleasantly persistent. People really respond well to when you're pleasantly persistent. Another thing is when it comes to recommendations, getting more recs. If they're at 12, bribe them to get to 20. Have no problem throwing in that accessory that they wanted, and make sure they know that you're buying it for them, right? That when you bonus something, that you're buying it for them. Another thing, as far as when it comes to, just having fun as far as closing bigger orders, make sure you just share a lot of stories about other people doing it, right? Like, you might be a little nervous about closing a bigger order, but you can have a lot of confidence that people on your team, like me, like Ray, Nicole, Jamie, Dylan, we're all closing bigger orders. So you can be like, hey, I know you're getting a homemaker. My friend sold this the other day. I think you might be interested in it. Can I show you this? You just ask. You're just throwing it out there. It's much more suggestive than it is. Here's the big tip. Be a show person, not a salesperson. Right? If you were with your friend and you're walking through the store, how much attachment would you have towards them buying certain items? If you wanted to persuade them to get a certain piece of clothing or a certain something, how would you act towards your friend? You wouldn't act like it's the end of the world if they don't buy that shirt. But if it's a really dope shirt, you can probably find a lot of things to suggest that make them go, yeah, you know what? I think I will get that. Hey, it's a really good time to get that shirt, whatever. You kind of get the idea there. So That'd be it.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great reminder. Be a show person, share stories. Hey, Ms. Jones, I know you were going to hold off on getting your set today. I just want to share a story with you about, so-and-so. We had a customer, I have a friend of mine, Jessica, in the office, and one of her customers was going to start with one of the smaller sets, but decided to rip off the Band-Aid, do the full set. I'll let Leisha show it to you whether you want to do it today or do it later, but this is what they decided to get. And just be the show person. It's like, I think you should get it today. Here's why. And you just give reason, just like the shirt example. I really love that, Colton. So great insights, brother. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. And can you believe it's been about a year? April will be a year from when you came in here to the office when we were just decorating and putting some stuff up and moving into Tampa.
Man.
And it's awesome to see what both of us have been able to do since that conversation. You finishing off the Hall of Fame in a $300,000 a year, and the Tampa team winning 2 national titles and currently #1 in the country year to date as well. Again, it's really awesome, man, and I'm proud to call you a friend. And if you need anything, please don't hesitate to let me know. And we appreciate you. All right, deal done. Done.
Cool, man.
Cool, brother. Well, I'll stop the recording now. And thanks.